Hi, I'm Sherry Trentini, and welcome back to the Life Reclamation Project podcast. I'm excited today to have a special guest, Dr. Angela Pucci, who has been a chiropractor for about 20 years and is now changing her focus and her passion to helping women with sleep. After years and years of learning and supporting women in feeling and moving better, now she wants to devote her time to helping people get better sleep. So thank you very much, Ange, for joining me today. Welcome.
Thanks, Sherry. Great to be here.
So I know you've got a fantastic book specifically about helping women get better sleep, and we're definitely going to talk about that. But I don't want to bury the lead because this is about grief and life. And so I just wanted to ask you a couple questions, and if you're comfortable sharing, what what the emotional part was for you to decide to make a change in your career after 20 long years. Would you say that you experienced or are still in the process of grieving this change?
Definitely. Becoming a chiropractor took a really long time. I was
Mm,
in school for about 10 years. You don't need to go
yes.
to school for 10 years, but I did. And then immediately after, I just started helping people. And it's one of those things that you kind of identify with who you are sometimes through what you do.
Yeah.
And for me, it was always helping people. Um, and so, unfortunately, due to injury, I had to stop helping people in a physical way. And
Mm,
that part is still, there's still grief associated with that because I don't have those connections with people every day. My hands aren't on people every day. I'm not
yes.
having conversations and deepening relationships with my patients every day. So definitely, yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely a grieving process.
Yes. Grief, as I use as a definition, is the end of or significant change of a pattern. And for 20 years of being able to be in person, hands on, literally helping people and to having that physical, the grief around the physical changes in your body too, certainly might add into the mix as well. So let's just take a breath about that
Yeah.
because it is a big thing, especially when though as you are moving into or have moved into helping women in a different way or helping not just women probably with sleep, but moving into an extension of what you've been doing for 20 years, there's still that sort of that gap or that you have to cross in order to get to the other side, despite how exciting that might feel. Is there some contrast going on as well?
Absolutely there is.
Mm,
It's the what am I going to do next part. There's a little bit of excitement there, which helps to dampen the grief for sure.
yes,
I love people, so I'm excited to see what kind of people are going to be in my path next.
love that. Love
Yeah.
that. Um, Now, the sleep thing.
Mhm.
This is certainly something that grief can affect as well. Did you notice any differences in your own sleep as you were starting to make this decision or coming to the conclusion that things needed to change significantly?
Oh, absolutely. Stress and anxiety are huge issues when it comes to whether or not you're getting a good night's sleep. And
Mhm.
the stress and anxiety surrounding this decision of mine, and it was a
Yes.
decision of mine, even though the injury is not within my control, I
Right.
chose to stop for the betterment of myself.
Yes.
Coming to that and picking a date and telling my patients and leading up to that date, definitely tossing and
Yeah.
turning and all sorts of things that we all know and or that we've all experienced when we're dealing with those emotions. 100%.
Absolutely. So that leads us into why you are focusing on sleep as your focus going forward. Now, has sleep been something that you have tried to improve upon, because you've had, not just in this particular situation of the stress of making this decision and the grief, but has sleep been something that you've been chasing a little bit through your life, or has this been motivated from what you've learned from your clients from for 20 years?
It's definitely personal. I've always loved sleep, even as a child.
Yeah.
It's just something that I always looked forward to at the end of every day. But then at some point in my 40s, I had a date with 3 a.m. every single night, and that
Oof.
date lasted way longer than I wanted it to. So for years, I really struggled in that 3 a.m. window. Um, couldn't figure it out for the life of me why this kept happening. Was it environmental? Was it caffeine? Was it this? Was it that? I figured it out,
Nice.
and life is so much better on the other side of sleeplessness. And that's not to say I sleep the way I want to 100% of the time. Of course, life is fluid, and so is sleep. But I feel like
Yes.
I'm in control of my sleep now. So for the most part, so that's very comforting.
So what would happen at 3 a.m.? You would wake up and then just not go back to sleep? Or was it sort of that I'm fake sleeping until the alarm goes off?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I would just wake up. But we wake up a number of times every night anyway. It's normal. It's totally normal to wake up about every 90 minutes or so as we go through the different stages of sleep. We may or may not remember waking up. Like that's how brief it typically is.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're dealing with we wake up and then we stay awake, that's when things get a little bit trickier. And that's when our mental part of being awake comes into play, which doesn't help us fall back asleep as easily as it would be otherwise. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my dates with sleep at 3 a.m. typically lasted about an hour and a half. And I was very resentful, and I had all the wrong emotions going on in my head because I was frustrated and all I wanted to do was sleep.
Exactly. I can't
Yeah.
imagine. So I will say that I've read your book. I loved your book, and I cannot stress enough about how much I appreciated how concise your information was, how easy to consume it was, that you took the science and made it very consumable, and also how practical some of your suggestions were. And I I've had I've been I date a little bit with bad sleep in the middle of the night. It hasn't become as much of a pattern that I need, you know, that I needed a tune up, hence reading the book. And when you say that this is, your my favorite quote is, "Sister, it is one small step at a dang time." Because especially as women, no matter what age or decade that you're in, we want solutions and we want them now. And so at 3 o'clock, when the eyes open up, the tendency to want to do a deep dive with Dr. Google or Dr. Social Media and try to figure this out. What would you say to women who are doom scrolling while they're having insomnia?
Well, first of all, the last thing we want to do during periods of insomnia is get in front of our phone or a tablet or a laptop or anything of that nature. Um, and there are quick fixes for sleep anywhere you look, every corner you turn, but it's the science about not sleeping well, it's pretty simple. Um, but implementing it can be complicated or tricky, depending upon where you are in life. But back to
Ah,
your question, we don't want to be on our tablets or phones or any kind of screen when we have that date at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. or whatever time it is.
mm-hmm.
Um, because it tells our brain it's morning time, because the light that's emitted from our tech basically tells our brain that it's time to wake up. And there's a pathway that the light follows once it goes into our eyes and goes into our brain, and it basically tells our brain to stop producing melatonin, and melatonin is what keeps us sleepy. So we need
So
to
our
figure
solution
out
actually is creates more of a problem.
exactly. We don't want to be doing research at 3 a.m. We want to do that during the daytime.
Ha, okay. So then that leads to the question too, because let's face it, with the different social medias and everybody sharing their tips and tricks on how they have overcome certain things, and it's, usually one drop in a very big bucket. Why what would your advice be to people who are looking for solutions when it comes to taking advice with a grain of salt or putting a pillow over top of that advice? And what would you say to that?
There are so many factors that are involved in getting a good night's sleep. And what a lot of women might not understand is that a good night's sleep begins in the day. So
Hmm.
a lot of our habits in the day can affect how we sleep at night. We're approaching, well, we're in being January, we are in like the longest, darkest days of the year. And it's really hard for us to get light in our eyes in the morning. That's just
Yeah.
where we are right now at this part of the year in Canada, anyway.
Yes.
And yeah, and it's just so dark and dreary often. And so, one great hack is to try to mimic that sunlight to go into our eyes in the morning. So, whether if we're putting on makeup, if we're making breakfast, if we're checking our email,
Hmm.
um, it's dark outside, so we can't turn off our brain and say, hey, it's daytime. So that's a really good time to be on screens. It's a good
Okay.
time to use artificial light, and just try to like bombard our brain with light and try to mimic sunlight as best we can. So that's where tech comes in really handy.
I actually have one of those sunshine lights next to my screen right here, and I have it there 365 because,
Okay.
especially, I struggle a lot during the wintertime as a sun lover. Today, not so much, as you can see the sun coming in on my side here, but I use it even on rainy days where I need a little something something. Is that
That's
uh
great.
okay?
And it's interesting that you mentioned you're beside a window
Yeah.
because the glass blocks what we need our brain to get. So being on the other side of a window isn't necessarily helpful. So the
Yes.
measurement of light is called lux. And so when
Okay.
I was actually writing the book, I was at my laptop with the desk lamp on right beside a window, and the ceiling light was on, and I had what's called a lux meter, and it was registering about 750 lux. If you go outside, even if it's a cloudy day, you are that I was thousands and thousands of lux under what it would be if I were outside. So,
Actually,
yep, yep.
really?
So you using that light device,
Yes.
365, is
Yes.
fantastic because if you're not outside, you're not telling the brain that it's daytime as much as it would be otherwise.
So even when I'm grumpy because there's no sun on a cloudy day, it's still better than being inside I'm still getting more than I think that I'm getting. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
interesting?
Yeah, ambient
Okay.
light will still give you thousands of lux. Yep. It doesn't have to be
Oh,
direct, but it essentially tells your brain to stop producing melatonin and that it's time to be awake.
okay. I think that just helped me to change my attitude a little bit about
There
that.
you go. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
thanks
on
for
nice
that tip.
days, if you're just sitting around sipping coffee in the morning, if you can do that on your front porch instead,
Mm,
right? Your
yes.
front porch steps, for example, then you're just giving your brain what it needs. Like simple things like that can really help
Yeah.
your sleep wake cycle.
Okay. Okay. So since we are mentioning that we're in Canada and it is the nearly the dead of winter, and we don't have a lot of daytime light, how how do we combat the cold and then needing to be outside at the same time? How much time can we, if it's minus 4,000 with the wind chill, like 5 minutes can get it done,
I mean,
in
anything is better than nothing. But if you could do like a 20-minute stretch twice a day outside, that would be ideal.
okay.
Um, some days are
Yeah.
ideal, some days aren't, and that's just the way it is. And that's why things like light lamps can be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Well, I do have a dog that needs walking, so I am outside when
perfect,
despite the weather. However,
perfect.
so in your book too, you talk about hormones, peri, and menopause.
Yes.
Now, I know that everybody has their own unique experience and their own unique puzzle that they're putting together when their hormones are sort of driving the bus, if you will. So, what is the science around sleep and our hormonal changes?
Yeah, this is a big topic.
Ah,
Um, yeah, when we are in the stage of life before perimenopause, when we are
mhm,
regular, when our cycles come every month at approximately the same time, it doesn't matter
mhm.
necessarily the length of your cycle, but how regular you are.
Okay,
Your hormones fluctuate even during a typical cycle. So our hormones are always rising and falling, and that is totally normal.
mhm,
Um, when we enter perimenopause, that's when things start to shift.
okay,
So levels might not be as in sync. So, for example, progesterone and estrogen, they're in sync. One's rising, the other's falling. Um, but in perimenopause, we get out of sync a little bit. And that's when symptoms start to arise because of these hormonal fluctuations that are different than they used to be. Sometimes you'll have a completely normal cycle, sometimes you won't, sometimes you won't cycle. And
mm,
when these fluctuations are happening, one of the interesting hormones that we can pay particular attention to in respect to the sleep space is progesterone.
okay,
So when we don't have enough progesterone, we don't sleep as well. For me, that was my one of the big ticket items for me in my sleep. Once I
okay.
started supplementing with progesterone, I think of progesterone as like the mother hormone of calmness. Um,
Oh,
that was
okay.
that was a big ticket item for me to
Yeah.
just be able to drift off to sleep and stay asleep. Um,
So, when
everybody
you're sorry to interrupt, but when you're talking about for calmness, so is that helping to balance out stresses aside from trying to figure out why we're not sleeping?
Yes, it can add that extra buffer of calm when it
Okay.
comes to our stresses.
Okay.
We're all in a different stressful situation day to day, month to month, and
Yes.
stress plays a huge role in how well we sleep. Progesterone can help offset that in its own indirect way. But I think of progesterone as, like I said, the mother calming hormone. And when we're not sleeping, we want to be able to find calm. Like that, that's a big thing. We typically, if you have a date at 3 a.m., you're thinking, oh, I only have 3.5 hours left before my alarm goes off. Or you start thinking about your to-do list or a difficult conversation that you have to have with somebody later in the week. And that's when the mental load starts to override just the fact that you're asleep.
Mm,
So yeah, I mean, it's really layered. But
yeah.
for some women, progesterone can be a significant factor in whether or not they stay asleep and have a restful sleep.
I did attend a talk that you had held at your clinic last summer, and there was conversation about supplements. I'm a big fan of supplements, and I learned a lot about that. So in your book, you do talk about sort of break down the different ones and how they may or may not help your particular sleep. Was that um a real important part where that you found that women had success was adding, helping to support their overall system with supplements?
They can.
Okay.
I think of supplements more as not the first line of defense.
Okay.
Um, and this is why. Sleep is just as much a daytime issue as it is a nighttime issue. So, what you do during your day can affect how well you sleep at night. So, if you're doing certain things during your day that is going to negatively affect your sleep, then
Mm-hmm.
no amount of supplementation necessarily is going to be able to offset what you're doing during the day. So, I say to people, getting a good night's sleep begins when you wake up. And we've talked about getting morning light, for
Yes.
example, like
Yes.
everything you do during the day can have a positive or negative effect on your sleep before we even get to the topic of supplements.
I think that is, I'm definitely wanting to highlight for people to really sit with that thought that your sleep, the quality of your sleep starts during your daylight hours.
Yeah,
I think that's a maybe a concept or a construct that people maybe not be looking at sleep at because busy, 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 go, 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 wind down, go to sleep, right? We don't think about how our choices um, and changes during the day will affect that crawl into bed, close eyes, see you the next day.
exactly.
I love
Exactly. So
that.
you mentioned the busy, 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 go, go, go.
Yes.
And so many women are in that camp, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of women who struggle with sleep are really, really tired, are shuffling kids to activities, taking care of their aging parents, trying to
Yeah.
climb the corporate ladder, whatever the case may be. And in that instance, there is one supplement that I believe can be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you can't necessarily change any of your daily habits, and that would be adaptogenic herbs. And
Oh,
those are herbs that you might have heard before,
yes.
ashwagandha, rhodiola. Those are herbs that actually just help calm you down. And when there's more calm, there is more ease for sleep.
Mm.
So it just helps you adapt a little bit better to your day to day. So regardless of how much control you have over your day, I
Mm-hmm.
do suggest adaptogenic herbs for people that do want to help just kind of bring things down a notch so that sleep might come upon them a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing about your book is that it is jam packed. I was going to actually count how many pages you have of citations, but I'm not,
Yeah,
because
I'm a
you
nerd.
you certainly backed up everything that you talked about in the book. But I love that you are also providing maybe a more holistic or a more natural approach to, giving trying that different thing to see if that is something that supports the process as well.
Thank you.
So, you know, as you said, you're a nerd, but you certainly do not you did not mince words when it came to the clarity and the comprehensive approach to sleep. But that's all in the book, which I'll link for sure in the post. But if there were maybe say three takeaways where or three small steps, right? Because we're doing a small step at a dang time. What would you say to people that are struggling with sleep? What would you maybe suggest that they start with or start to observe in their habits that might change some things for their nighttime sleep
Great,
sessions?
great question. So it depends on the person and where they are in life, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that kind of an umbrella top three things to do in order to start your journey to better sleep. Um, well, the first one would be temperature. So we
Okay.
actually have to drop our core body temperature by about a degree in order to fall asleep. Um, and a lot of people aren't aware that is a thing. And so I find programmable thermostats to be women's best friend when it comes to finding a sleep temperature that works best for them. So I actually have my thermostat programmed to go down about an hour before I want to be in bed. And
Oh.
then the thermostat doesn't kick on again until about half an hour before I want to be awake. So, heat, the ambient temperature of your home, can be something that can be very effective. And further to thermostats, if you warm up yourself first, for example, take a shower or
Mm-hmm.
a bath before bed, when you get out, all of the blood is going to go to the surface of your skin to warm you up. So
Yes.
it actually decreases your core body temperature. So if you like to have a bath or a soak or a shower
Oh,
before bed, that can actually really help you with the temperature.
oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So temperature, that's something that we can control. That's something that we can, manage without having to go very far or do anything. What else do you have?
I would be remiss if I didn't talk about caffeine.
Okay.
And there are fast metabolizers of caffeine and slower metabolizers of
Yes.
caffeine. But my umbrella suggestion is stop consuming caffeine 12 hours before you want to be asleep. So that would
Okay.
be a general statement for people.
Hmm.
Um, if you have a cup of coffee at noon, you are still going to have half of that caffeine in your system by the time you want to be asleep. So it's one of those things where it would be really great to have the caffeine out of your body as much as possible before you want to be asleep.
Interesting. And does
Yeah.
that, so caffeine from any source,
Yeah.
right? So like there's the team green tea where they're
Yeah.
drinking that like all day, but um so there doesn't matter what the source is or how
That's
you're in.
right. Yeah, you
Okay.
want to be pretty mindful about that. And on the topic of green tea, there are so many benefits to green tea. There really are, but it is a caffeinated beverage. So just be
Yes.
mindful of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And an acquired taste, in my
yeah,
opinion.
that's true too.
Now, you mentioned about light earlier. Now, one of the things that I'm conscious of is that one night I noticed in my room just like little lights, like the little USB charger or the this. How, what should our bedrooms be like when we go to bed?
I'm so glad you asked this question. I firmly believe that our bedroom should be a sleep cave. It should be
Okay.
as dark as possible, as chilly as you can handle. Like you don't want to be in bed shivering, but you do want it to be cooler in order to decrease that your core body temperature.
Yeah.
But you want it to be free of light. So yes,
Okay.
all those little LED lights that you might find on your laptop, um, anything,
Mm-hmm.
cover them up with black electrical tape if you
Yes.
can't remove them from your bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, your bedroom would have a bed, blackout curtains, and if needed, a towel under the door so no light from the hallway would escape into your room. When you have those brief awakenings every 90 minutes or so in a typical night, which is totally normal to wake up, you don't want to see that light. You don't want to tell
Okay.
your brain that it's morning.
Yes.
Now, of course, that is a very nice place to be in life if you don't have a baby monitor, for example,
Yeah.
or if you live somewhere where it's so hot and you need to have an air conditioner in your room, for example. Those things have lights too. If you can cover them with black tape, great, because you can't remove them.
Yes.
So, yeah,
And I brought that up because I recently bought new multi plugs with different because of the change of the US from USB-C to US whatever it is now, the
right.
small plug. And I got into bed and I'm like, where is that coming from? But there was a little blue strip on top of, and I'm like, no. So
And it's
I did the
crazy how
electrical tip.
much it's crazy how much light those tiny little lights give off.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, and didn't seem to be obtrusive when I plugged it in. But as soon as I tried to close my eyes, and I'm like, what is that? What is
Yeah,
that?
exactly. We really want to limit light exposure. That this would be number three. We
Yes.
want to limit our light exposure in the evening, and especially in our bedroom. So yeah, try to stay off the screens as much as you can in the
Mm-hmm.
evening and keep your lighting in your home as dim as possible. So um, if you want to watch some TV before bed, a lot of people do. Brush your teeth first, hang out in your living room, put the lamp on dim, and then when your TV watching is over, you're ready for bed. Like the bathroom is one of our brightest rooms in the house. And
Oh,
so many of us brush our teeth right before bed. So we get this big flash of light right before we want to go to sleep. So
okay.
small
That
little habits, right?
that is brilliant because you're right. It's like a stadium in my bathroom,
Yeah,
compared to what I'm going into the bedroom for. That, thank you very much for that. That is
you're welcome.
amazing, amazing. So, I'm going to share a link to the book. It's an instant download once you do that. But are you offering anything else? How can people have a more bespoke experience with you about their particular sleep interruptions or their sleep patterns, or how can they, is it possible for people to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to meet with people for consultations, either in person here in Calgary or online. I'm happy to
Okay.
do that as well.
Okay.
The process is relatively straightforward. The intake form will be long though, because I want to gather as much information as I can from somebody
Mm-hmm.
before I sit down and talk to them. So
Okay.
we can get the most out of our time and be as efficient as possible.
Excellent. And
Yeah.
I will provide all links so that you can be in touch with Ange and get some more information, get her book, read that through, perhaps have a one-on-one with her to see if we can't you can't start putting the puzzle together, one small step at a dang time, and improve the process so that you know life is a lot easier when we are rested.
Oh, I mean, it's our foundation. It's our foundation for everything. So we deserve it.
I'm so grateful for our conversation, Angela. Thank you so, so much. I am grateful to have read your book and to have had this conversation. And I do hope that we can chat in the future about how things are changing in the sleep world. And I hope other people just reach out to you and get some help if they are struggling to get better sleep.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I hope all of that as well. I mean, we really, really deserve to have better sleep, and some of us just don't know where to begin. But yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure.